Welcome back, YouTube, to another episode of My Speaker Podcast. This your boy Mike, aka Booby, aka Choke Yourself.
It's your boy Dark Side of Daryl, Santee, South Carolina Finest, why y'all again, get up my face again, Salem again, all that good stuff, man.
And in the middle, man, we got my cousin that played in the NFL for New England Patriots, played for Miami Dolphins, played at Sacramento State, dominated Clemson one game by itself. My cousin Tyler McDonald, man. Appreciate you, T.
I appreciate you guys having me, man. I'm happy to be here.
All right, so this is why I got him on here. Since he was in part of the NFL and what the Panthers going through, he can give us some more insight. I know people get tired of me talking and thinking I'm always knowing I'm talking about this, that, and the other, but we might not always be right. We might not always be wrong.
But you're always going to get our modest opinion what we're speaking on.
So on that note, we want to see everybody talking about it. Bryce Young has been benched after 2 games. Me and my cousin, we was in a big group chat, going back and forth. And a lot of points he was saying, I was making the same point, but his daddy is on a whole nother perspective. Not so much he's talking about Bryce, but Stroud was his guy. So I want my cousin to get in before I even say anything and let him talk. What you think happened to Bryce Young so quick in only 18 games? He missed the game last year, so he played 16 games last year. He only played 18 games in a year in 2 games. Why do you think they pulled the plug on Bryce so quick?
So, looking at it now in hindsight, I think them pulling the plug right now is more so to protect their investment at this point, more so than the fact that they don't think he's the guy. So when you mortgage as much as your future as they did in order to get someone like him, because you got to remember, they traded their first-round pick that current year, their first-round pick the next year that ended up being the number 1 pick,
Caleb Williams,
along with the
DJ
number 1
Moore
receiver. When you send that much draft capital and player capital for one person, you're not going to give up on them in less than 20 games. So at this point, they know that their team isn't ready. So they're trying not to ruin his mental right now, knowing that they aren't ready. So they're trying to salvage as much as they can while they can.
But the thing is, I'm hearing, now I don't know how true this is on NFL Network, ESPN, they talking about now he won't play another down for the Panthers the rest of his career.
Oh yeah, he ain't playing no more.
Now granted, with the way this new ownership group has been moving, you never know.
But Tyler, Temple handpicked him. Now, the coach we had last year, they said Wright wanted Stroud. Temple and his wife wanted Bryce Young. Now, we all know how this works. A la Cowboys, the owner got to get out the way. Let the general manager, let the coaching staff do what they do and go through the due diligence. I'm not saying Stroud, we all can sit here and say Stroud was 1A and Bryce was 1A, 1B when they came out. They pretty much had the same kind of numbers. Bryce didn't have, we were talking about this earlier, Bryce didn't have the Devontae Smiths and all that. He didn't have the. Only he had Jameson from playing Detroit. Now he got the receiver for Houston's on the practice squad. He didn't have so in Stroud and to his defense he had Marvin Harrison
and Jigba
and
Buka.
He had more receivers. So he had more in college than Bryce had in college. But Bryce, to his defense, Bryce had a hell of an offensive line. But you're not. I'm just trying to figure out. You played college ball and you played the pro. How quick can your confidence go from being the number 1 pick to now you looking like you don't even know what you're doing out there?
At that position, it can go quick. Because we've seen it across the board over the last 2-3 decades. Quarterbacks get picked high, and soon as something goes wrong, they're used as a scapegoat. And that's the reason why it happens so quick, because that position is given so much praise, so much credit when you're successful. That's also the scapegoat when things go wrong. You looking now, Baker Mayfield, he was a top pick.
Look, a whole lot better. But he played, what, 6-7 years it took him to get?
Yeah, because when he was in Cleveland, he looked average, but that was also an organization that was on their way back to trying to be successful.
You said another one today, Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold was with the Jets, who might be the only organization up until the last year and a half that might have been a worse organization than the Panthers in the last 3 to 4 years. So, and they haven't had a successful quarterback in 10, 12 years.
Exactly.
If we're going to be honest about it.
That's why they got the brand went and brought in Aaron Rodgers. And
Aaron Rodgers is probably the only person that can do something. And I'm not talking about current Aaron Rodgers. I'm talking about prime Aaron Rodgers.
Exactly.
So if you take those 2 guys who have been with this same organization during the same ownership period, now granted, they might have had better rosters when they was here, and they still were not successful at all. You know
but my thing is, this is, and what your daddy was saying in the text, this is what getting me. He kept saying if you put Stroud on the Panthers and put Bryce in Houston, Stroud would do better over here. He would have a better record than what beat Bryce. I'm saying to myself, how can you hypothetically say that? Now, we looking at, okay, people, everybody want to do this. Everybody want to do this. When they both started out last year, they would say Houston was in the worst shape. I'm not so sure that Houston was in the worst shape last year when Stroud got over there. DeMeco Ryans played the game. They had a vision over there. Houston wasn't that bad the year before that.
I'll give you a few reasons why. Now Houston was in a bad shape, but they weren't in as bad of a shape as the Panthers.
Exactly.
Now, I'll give you 3, maybe 4 reasons why. For one, if you look at Houston right after Deshaun Watson left, that next year and a half with Davis Mills or Davidson Mills, they were winning games.
Decent,
They was in games.
And when they were losing games, they was losing close games.
Yes.
They might have had a couple little crazy instances where they got blown out, but for the most part, they were either winning close games
or they was in the game.
close games. So that year that they fell so bad to where they got C.J. Stroud, they had some injuries. They had some weird things going on the defensive side of the ball where they didn't have some guys showing up. You know what I mean? So they had some pieces there. And then the biggest thing of all, which I mentioned earlier, they didn't mortgage a first-round pick and future players in order to get CJ. So they and then people forget they had 2 top 5 picks.
And guess what they did? They took Stroud and they took Will Anderson, the number 1 DN. And then this year, what they did in free agency, they went and got the number 1 edge rusher in Hunter from Minnesota. So you look at that Brown board. You got. I tell people, look at the Panthers' top 3 receivers. Look at their top 3 receivers. You got Dales, you got Nico Collins, and you got Stephon Diggs, and you got Joe Mixon. They got players over there. You look over here. What do we have?
You're right, and I'll do you one better. And a lot of people like to point out, oh, well, they both had first-year head coaches. People forget the first-year head coach that Bryce Young had just got fired
from Indianapolis.
He didn't even make it through his first year.
Yeah.
And this is what I'm saying. Last year they said Bryce Young, and we were talking about this, they changed the offense 3 times in 1 calendar season. You know how hard it is for you got a rookie to get one playbook and say, okay, this is what we're going to do all year. When Frank got fired, then the special team coach took over, changed it again. But my thing is, when are you going to stop changing as an owner? When are you going to stop firing coaches and let a culture get here? Because like I said before, what's killing me about the owner, you came from Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh done had Knox. They had Cowell. They had Tomlin, and they had Knox, Cowell.
They've had like
it's four coaches in their whole history.
You had Bill
Cowell. You had Tomlin. You had Knox and Chuck Noll. They had 4 coaches. The Panthers, they started out with Don Capers. They went to John Fox. Then they went to Steve, the dude from San Fran with the glasses. Seifert. George Seifert. They went to George Seifert. Then they went to Rivera. So the Panthers, pretty much in the first 25 seasons in this organization, they had 4 coaches. They were pretty much doing what the Pittsburgh was doing. So Jerry Richardson played the game. He said, well, you know what? You can't change coaches. You got to let them build a culture. Tampa got the team. You done went from Matt Rule to Steve. And the crazy part about this, Steve Wilkes got 12 games. That's after they had traded McCaffrey.
He's the one person that got the rawest deal out of everybody in this situation.
And we know that. But listen, my thing is, he took Matt Rule's team after they had traded CMC before that. So he had Deontay Foreman, he had Chuba Hubbard, he had DJ Moore, and your quarterback was PJ Walker. And they won. They were 6-6, and they went to the last game of the season in Tampa Bay before they were trying to get to the playoffs. He made them look respectability. You go into the offseason, the players went to the owner and say, look, we want him to be the coach.
That was the start of the downfall.
Exactly. Then you say, I'm going to bring in an offensive mind. And like I was trying to tell people, what's the point of saying, I'm going to keep this brother over here coaching, and I'm going to give me an offensive minded coach, and he can be the offense coordinator? But that go to show me right there, when he got rid of Steve Wilkes, it wasn't about none of that. This ain't who I picked. This my team. I'm going to pick. So he went go get Frank Wright. Like you said, Frank Wright just got fired in Indianapolis.
He didn't even make it through 18. Honestly, he caused controversy on his way out the door in Indianapolis. He was the reason why people were going in on Jeff Saturday.
Exactly.
Because he was able to get that interim job
quick.
Because he didn't do his job.
So I'm saying, so my thing is, for people in Charlotte to throw Bryce Young and say Bryce Young is the problem, it started at the top to me. It don't start. It's not. Don't get me wrong. Bryce not looking good. He's not looking good.
Yeah, I'll say this. Has he played well? No,
absolutely
so we're not gonna sit and act like it's all his.
No, and now let me ask you this.
Like we were just talking about before, man. Like I was telling you the other day. The reason why I don't get behind the Carolina Panthers because of what I always say, they don't have a culture. They don't know what they're doing. The scouting team don't know how to scout.
But okay, let me ask you this. You say that. Let me ask you this. Did you follow them when they were Ron Rivera was in? Was you behind them then?
I was behind them then.
You were behind them with John Fox?
Yeah, definitely John Fox.
So my thing is, the Panthers never have been this bad. This team look like an expansion team. It's like somebody just put this team. They just put this team together and say, go out there and make something happen.
Because see now you can call them like I told you today, you can call them the NCDOT, North Carolina Department of Transportation, because they're always trying to fix up stuff and rebuild. They keep rebuilding every 3-4 years. You can't be doing that.
And now the sad part about it is their defense isn't terrible.
No, but you on the field, you're gonna be on the field too long.
Yeah.
And let me ask you this. Okay, so now you caught balls from Tom Brady. You caught balls from my man in Miami, Tannehill.
Yeah.
So you were down there. So let me ask you this. What's the mindset of the guys now? They done told Bryce Young you come in Sunday, right after the game, he said, Bryce is my guy. Mm-hmm. Less than 24 hours, you come back that Monday morning and say, Andy Dalton, my quarterback. What are the players saying? You thinking behind closed doors now, they got to go play the Raiders. How do you think it's going to transform going to play week 3?
So realistically, you talking about the players or you talking about the front office?
Well, no, the players. How you think are they gonna rally around Andy Dalton, or you think they're gonna play better? Or what you think?
So the players are at least gonna give Andy Dalton a fair shot this week, just because they want to win.
Yeah.
So it's not even about they think Andy Dalton can win more than Bryce can. It's just that they're so hungry to win and things are so bad.
Gotcha.
They just, if any of them have any type of fight in them, they don't care who's in there. They're like, all right, if we got to switch it up to try to make something happen, we're going to try to make something happen. So I think the players are still going to play inspired just because they just don't want to be out here being the laughing stock. Like, that's just a personal pride.
Gotcha.
They got to play because they got to put up good film for the, like I said.
Yeah,
but
some of these dudes got contracts.
Yeah, they got contracts, man.
So dudes are still going to play. Now, granted, if things start going wrong, now how much that willpower lasts after things start going
Do you think it's going to be a different result Sunday? Not so much a win, but just playing better overall.
It will.
Okay.
It will. You know why? It's going to be the same thing that happened last year whenever Bryce missed that one game.
And then he went out to Seattle and he balled out.
They called a different game.
Yeah.
If
they opened up the playbook for him.
So they opened up the playbook, and they know that Andy Dalton's not known to be a mobile guy. So they were calling protections to protect that. They were a lot of quick snap, a lot of max protection, a lot of things like that.
So why they can't call that for Bryce Young then?
Some of that's ego. Honestly, that's probably one of the biggest problems in football. Once you get to that Division I level and up, it's a lot of ego in store. So especially when you pay this much money or you invest this much in a guy, it's almost like you should be able to handle this. Even if you know you haven't put the right things around him,
they still gonna put it on him no matter what,
regardless, because he's the number one guy. Even if they know they missed on the last 2 receivers that let me not say missed.
And that's what I was. Don't go there because I want to ask you that. You play a receiver. In your opinion, have they reached for Mingo and have they reached for Leggett?
So Leggett they didn't reach for because they caught him in the
third. He was the
third or second round. So they didn't reach for him. But they drafted him knowing that he was going to be a project guy that would come along later on. They knew he had the perfect physical specimen. He was going to be able to, if they were able to teach him the ins and outs of it, he would be fine. And that still can be true. Like I'm not saying he's a lost cause.
What about Mingo?
No, that's what I'm talking about.
Mingo, okay.
Now Leggett, I'm not sure how you pronounce it, but I do think they reached a little bit. I feel like they could have gotten him in the second round, but I also feel like he's in the same category as Mingo. He's one of those guys. He's a raw physical specimen, but
they're not route runners or none of that.
Neither one of them are all the way there with the ends, with the little stuff.
Let me ask you this. That's what I'm talking about, the organization there. Why would you take the same player 2 years in a row? That's basically what you're saying.
So
you hoping you hit on one of them?
That and they're letting the outside noise kind of mess with them because what's been the other thing that people have been screaming aside from the O-line problems? He has no weapons. So they like, man.
He still ain't got no weapons.
They don't, but at that point you kind of have to. They kind of were in a position where they made themselves have to reach. Because think about it, nobody's coming into free agents.
True.
They missed on 2 trades. They were floating around the T Higgins trade. The Bengals really wanted to hold on to him, so they really weren't trying to.
They weren't doing that.
There was another receiver out there that
he was going to Pittsburgh or either.
So at that point they were like, all right. The offensive line problem is going to be there regardless because offensive line is more continuity than anything. So that's something that's going to develop over time. That offensive line might look completely different by week 10. So that part, that kind of is what it is. The only other thing that you can address that can make an immediate impact is receivers. What do you do when you want to get a receiver? You trade up for one. What do they not have? They don't have draft capital to trade up. So they couldn't trade up to get one of those. Because there was 4 receivers in the top 10?
Even the dude from Washington, Harrison. The dude from
Dunze.
Dunze
had 2 other teammates that came out. There was another one that went late.
And then the little guy, the Georgia, the one you told me about him. You say he was the one most shit out of all of them. Yeah. And he balled out for week 1.
And he's the most out of those late round guys. He was the most pro ready guy just because in Georgia, because Georgia runs such a pro style.
Exactly.
He thrived in that slot where he could read the linebackers, read the safeties, get in and out, and he's deceptively explosive.
Okay, so going back to Bryce, I got to ask you this quick. Preseason, why you only playing 1 series in the whole preseason?
Now, that was a mistake.
I mean, but let me ask you this. You telling me nobody in the organization Stroud played 2 games preseason. Guys that Mahomes played 2. How you gonna say this guy was struggling last year? Why you didn't play him now in the preseason?
And honestly, I can't even comment on that.
I
As
can
far
comment
as
on it.
honestly, that's just the downside side effect of the culture of today's NFL.
Like I said, that's not Dave Cannell's guy. That's why he ain't playing.
It's not even that though. Like if you look across the NFL, they're so worried about guys getting hurt, and that's a real reality of it. Like guys get hurt all the time. But if you look 7-8 years ago, guys were still playing those first 2-3 weeks of preseason.
Yes.
But nowadays with guys holding out and all these gaudy contracts, these organizations like, well, shoot, if I'm finna give you 50-60 million, I'm not. You gonna sit. You just gonna have to get in shape week 1, 2.
Well, so you pretty much throwing the first couple like the Panthers did through the first 2 games away.
That's really how, and it's sad, but that's really what it's gotten to.
So basically, just because he became the first, he was the number 1 overall draft pick, right? So he got a little rookie contract or whatever. So you mean to tell me you couldn't let him sit behind Andy Dalton for year 1?
He could have.
You could have, but that's also another thing with the new culture of the NFL. I forgot who was speaking about it today. I was watching a sports show.
Because I'm gonna tell you right now, Jordan Love is the perfect example.
Yeah.
But Green Bay has always done it.
They done it with
Aaron
Rodgers.
Before that, they made
Favre came
down.
when he came from Atlanta. He sat down a year behind them and he started.
And
then when Aaron Rodgers said 2 years.
2.5.
Yeah, he sat
So
for a
you sitting
while.
there learning, seeing what these other guys
But why organization won't do it? You can't sometimes. I guess what they are saying is Bryce Young played in SEC.
Yeah.
You throw him out to the fire.
No.
Stroud went out there and bought. Like we were saying,
it's only a few quarterbacks
It's only a few.
that you can throw it in. And honestly, it's not even about the quarterback. It's about the situation around
There
it.
you go.
Because football is
Yeah.
the ultimate team sport. It's not like basketball where you can go draft a LeBron
1 or
James
2
number
players,
1
yeah.
overall
And make
and your team go from a 10-win team to a 50-win team.
Gotcha.
Football is not like that.
Not
One
that.
player isn't going to
Not gonna
change.
make it.
He might make the game more entertainment.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He might make the game closer. You might go from getting blown out to only losing by a touchdown.
Yeah.
But one player isn't going to change your team from a losing team to a winning.
So to your daddy question, directly, would Stroud have come to the Panthers and made them a better team last year, or had more wins than what Bryce Young? That's what I really want. Yeah, what your daddy want to know.
So in short, no. The long version of that is that's not a fair question because
It's not.
of the situations. And for 2, at most, may CJ Stroud won maybe 1 more game. Either way, the Panthers were going to have the number 1 pick.
Exactly.
The Panthers pick would have been the number 1 pick.
That's what I'm saying.
So it's not really fair because the organizations just were trending in 2 totally different directions. Because
We look like Detroit from when Barry. We
Barry
look like
Sanders.
Detroit when you had Barry Sanders that wasting his career away. This is what the Panthers look like now. Trash.
Yeah.
This is what they look like. But you said something to me earlier, and I just want to pick it back on something right quick. You play receiver. You got Mingo and you got Leggett. Wow. What do the NFL scouts do when they come down to these smaller schools? We were talking about it on the earlier podcast. You got a 5-star here, so you're looking at this guy. He's got to be better. But I had a rebuttal to that. Justin Jefferson is the best receiver in pro football. He was a 2-star when he was at LSU. It's not